Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Um, Today, I want to talk about. There's a lot of things to talk about, but I think I'll just cover for this morning. I want to keep today a little bit. I don't want to say I want a little bit light because I'm going to be covering serious stuff, but just a little bit casual. It's been a long week. It's been a lot of news this week. Some of it's been frustrating. Much of it's been absurd. Um, So I want to keep the live today a little bit free flowing. And whether you're watching live or you're watching recorded, I want to keep it a little bit free flowing. We'll kind of see where it goes as we move along. The stories I want to cover today include. I think there's one headline really that matters from the village idiot Donald Trump's meeting with President Xi in China. I There's a lot of news that's coming out, but I think the only thing that matters, I think the only thing that the Chinese really wanted to get across was a very simple warning to the idiot. And I think they achieved that. Um, so I think we'll talk about that. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about the some interesting update in Iran. What a U.S. admiral who strikes me as a Trumpian hack is saying, and how unimportant it is or meaningless it is. And then we'll speak briefly about Howard Lutnick's. There's the release of Howard Lutnick's deposition today. His closed door deposition with the House Oversight Committee that's covering up and trying to protect the village idiot Donald Trump and others in the Epstein files saga, the ongoing Epstein files cover up. So I think we'll get into that. So without further ado, let me pull up the chat so I can see, who's out there today, and we'll kind of go from there. Well, let me try to pull up the chat so I can see who's out there today. All right, let's try this again. There we go. So I can see who's out there today. Okay, there we go. So starting with President Xi and the village idiot Donald Trump, there's a lot of headlines. You've probably seen a lot of headlines if you're watching the news as frequently as I do, right? You're probably seeing a lot of headlines coming out of the news, whether it's business news outlets or regular news, or mainstream news outlets or even independent news outlets, and that's great. I mean, it's good to be informed. I think there's only one thing that matters. I think when I say one thing that matters, I think there's only one thing that is going to turn itself into demonstrable, whatever the word is, action or policy or change. And that's President Xi warning the village idiot, basically telling the idiot Donald Trump that if you interfere with our efforts to do whatever it is that we want with Taiwan, you are facing a war, right? And Donald Trump, in response, talked about how Remarque is an incredible leader. He's a fantastic leader. He praised President Xi. President Xi knows what we all know, and he probably knows it better than the rest of us, how weak Donald Trump is, how weak drunken Pete Hegseth is, how pathetic a shell of a spirit and a man Marco Rubio is. And he probably knows that, now is the moment. Not probably. President Xi almost certainly knows that if there's ever a moment to strike, whether it be figuratively, rhetorically, or physically, it's now. Because the U.S. is never going to have an idiot like Donald Trump it's like a once in a lifetime opportunity, that you get a bumbling idiot like Donald Trump, who you can manipulate, manage, own, and scare. And so she isn't going to let this opportunity slide by, right? She knows what he wants to do here, and he knows what he can get away with. I mean, he's going to do things he, wouldn't have been interested in doing with Joe Biden, because he wouldn't have been able to get away with them. Biden would have stood up and said, no, that's not an option. Stop it. He wouldn't have done it with Obama, because Obama also would have been like, no, thank you. He wouldn't have done it with George Bush, right? He wouldn't have done it with any other U.S. president, because he's never had the opportunity, to go up against an idiot, a fumbling idiot. And now she knows that, and he's taking advantage of that. So the reason that I am saying that, we have all of this bullshit about, all of these ass-kissing businessmen flew into, two of them, Elon Musk and Jensen, I think it's Jensen, I think is his name. The CEO of NVIDIA, they flew in on Air Force One like the ass kissers that they are, the pathetic ass kissers that they are. They flew in with the imbecile on Air Force One. The rest of the imbeciles, the ass kissers, I shouldn't say imbeciles, but the rest of the ass kissing CEOs met the idiot there, thinking that they're going to have, hoping, looking for a photo op, looking to manipulate their stock prices, hoping that they're going to have all of this incredible opportunity in China because they went with the idiot, and the idiot is going to ask for it, right? Hey, Ann, how are you? I don't think any of that's going to happen. There have been other times when the idiots from the Trump administration had asked for things, demanded things of China, and the Chinese said, sure, yeah, we're going to do. After they were done manipulating the Trump administration, this happened in the first Trump administration, it's happening now in the second one. And after they were done manipulating the village idiot Donald Trump and the goofballs in the administration, they would say, sure, we're going to buy so many millions of metric tons of soybeans from you. Sure, this isn't the first time that Donald Trump is claiming and trying to make an effort to open China up to U.S. business. Sure, we're going to open it up. We got you. We're going to open things up to U.S. businesses. It doesn't happen. Chinese just don't do it. And they know with this imbecile, that doesn't matter, because it's all about the moment, because it's all he's capable of processing, understanding, and comprehending is this second, this moment. He can't think about, he has no ability to, parse out what the future implications of any decision are. He has no understanding of what happened in the past. It's just about this second, and it's about his infantile desires to look like somebody who's a president, as he's cosplaying president of the United States of this second. And she knows that. So they flattered the idiot. They sent out the kids to meet the idiot at the plane. They gave the idiot a big state dinner. They did that, they semi-flattered the idiot. They made it clear to the idiot that they're not going to negotiate they're not going to get him out of the Iran war. So Marco Rubio, the little putz, came on and, said, well, we don't want China. We don't need China to get us out of the war. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And your idiot boss went there, wishing, hoping, praying against hope that China would somehow agree to provide the off-ramp out of the war. She didn't give that to him. She is pretending to give him, sure, we're not going to do a formal agreement, but we'll open things up. Don't you worry. You got this. But the whole point, in my opinion, of this visit for Xi was to get the U.S. president to come to him. It's not even like Xi came here. Get the U.S. president in China, get him on Chinese soil to publicly humiliate him and get him and threaten him, right? Two things. Get the idiot to come to China. So in China, in front of the cameras, in front of the world, she could project strength and say, hey, you came here. You're groveling for me to get you out of the Iran situation. I'm not going to do this. But what I am going to do, Donald, is I'm going to warn you, you pathetic, orange, blobby-looking motherfucker. I'm warning you in front of everybody, and I summoned you here to warn you. You came because I demanded it. That's not really what happened, but you get the point, right? I summoned you here, manipulated you to get here, and this is what you're going to do. You're not going to do anything when it comes to Taiwan except what I allow you to do. And you do anything else, we're going to go to war, and I'm going to kick the living shit out of you. I mean, that is in essence what she did, right? Everything else was window dressing. Everything else in this summit was political theater that the Chinese intentionally designed to manipulate Trump into doing what they wanted. And the only other thing that I think she got out of this that was incredible for him and for the Chinese government, they got a photo op. They got the village idiot, in essence, hammering NATO on China. You know, they have China, the village idiot Donald Trump and little Marco Rubio talking about how bad NATO is on Chinese soil. What could be better for them? What could be better for Russia? And as Ben Masalas talked about this morning on the Midas Touch News Network, when I was catching some news updates that the mainstream media is, as usual, not reporting, is there is a new world order forming that is referred to as BRICS. It's, I may screw this up, it's Brazil, China, Russia, China, India. I can't remember what the C, which countries are the C and the S. But they're working together to, you know, be in essence, a NATO of sorts. Maybe not based on, you know, maybe it would be more of an economic play than a defense play, than a geopolitical defensive community. But you know, what the idiot did was he basically, and what she manipulated him into doing was basically lowering the value of NATO, increasing the value of this BRICS community that does not include the United States, all the while humiliating the United States and making us less important of a superpower every day. And I think that, you know, the idiot, you know, she didn't spend his time praising the idiot. She didn't spend his time talking about how incredible a leader he is, how impressed he is, how remarkable he is. Donald Trump spent his time talking about how fantastic she is. He's an incredible leader. He's an incredible, fantastic person, etc. So, again, from my perspective, what we got out of this, what we achieved from this ridiculous, and it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. Trump went there, humiliated himself, humiliated the United States. The Europeans are going to have to figure out what it is that they want to turn NATO into, and they're going to have to figure that out with Ukraine, with the country with the strongest military force in all of Europe right now, which is Ukraine, right? Without the United States involved. And it looks like, and I think this idiot's going to be able to pull it off after, you know, through over a period of 2 years without us there. It looks like to me, The U.S. will come out of this Trumpian nightmare no longer a superpower, not aligned with whatever NATO evolves into without us, um, and completely isolated by the Chinese as a we won't be I can't imagine the village idiot can completely erase us as a world power and completely bankrupt us like he's done every one of his fucking businesses. Um, but the damage is going to be far more significant geopolitically than I thought it would have been. We are going to be the most, I really see us, best case scenario, being just the most irrelevant country on the planet by the time Donald Trump leaves office. Will be this weird combination of geopolitically irrelevant. We'll have some relevance because we'll still have a strong military, but the military will be the laughing stock of the Western world and the world in general. Because although we have all this strength, and I'm going to tell you about it in a minute, we have the commander in chief and the generals who are the chief, who are pathetic, who are an embarrassment, who lie, who make shit up. But on top of that, they're no good at being like autocratic Soviet style military leaders. They're just going to be looked at as a joke. After the Iran war is done, when we leave Iran with our heads between our legs in a state of shame, and Iran is in a better position. Hey, Catherine. Hey, Irish Aggie. Iran is in a better position, a far better position. Even though our military capabilities are still incredibly strong, our military is going to be looked at as just a comical, laughable, international exception of Donald Trump. Not exception, international, what's the word that I'm looking for? Extension of Donald Trump. Just another extension of stupidity. What a disgrace it is that these generals, this admiral, I'm going to read to you about the laughable comment that one of our admirals just said. I'm going to cover that in a minute. But I think that's where we're headed. I think the best that we can hope for, and I think this is what we're going to wind up being, by the time the idiot leaves office, we're just going to be a geopolitical joke. And I think the projection is clear, right? Trump is good at projecting his failures on everyone else. And he spent so much time during the 2024 presidential campaign talking about how we were the laughing stock because of Biden. We weren't, but he kept saying we were. He still spends time now constantly talking about how nobody's laughing at us anymore, except in real life, everybody's laughing at us. And I think the breadth and depth of that projection will really be clear and obvious when this idiot finally leaves office in 2029, because we will be irrelevant and we will be the laughing stock of the world, and we just won't matter. So this is CNBC reporting. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. Xi warns Trump, mishandling Taiwan will put the U.S.-China relationship in great jeopardy. Beijing President Xi Jinping warned U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday that the U.S. and China, quote, will have clashes and even conflicts if the longstanding issue of Taiwan's independence is mishandled. So he told Trump, and he never would have, I don't think Xi would have said this to Biden. I don't think, because Xi doesn't want a war. The Chinese don't seem interested in going to war. They're interested in building themselves up as a singular global superpower, right? Militarily, sure, they have interests. I'm sure they have colonialist interests as well, but those are not front and center to where China's focus at least seems to be. I mean, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes and in Xi's head, but from my limited vantage point, it doesn't seem like war is what they're particularly interested in. At least not at the moment. And but he's made the point that because he knows Trump is such a coward, and he knows Trump is so desperate that he felt bold enough to say, fuck around and find out, Donald. If you go too far, further than I'm willing to tolerate in the independence focus of Taiwan, we're going to go to war. Deal with it, right? And Trump said, you're incredible. You're incredible. I just think you're incredible. You're such an incredible autocrat. I wish I could be like you. I so wish I could be. I want to be Xi. I used to want to be Putin, but now I want to be Xi. Can somebody please make me Xi? Xi is fantastic. I love it. I love it if they would. You can make me Xi. I'm going to be better. I'm going to be more better. Better than Xi could ever have been. I'll be the greatest. I'm going to be Xi. Xi. Not SHE. I'm not one of them. I'm not an SHE. I don't believe in it. Trans for everybody. I don't believe, but I want to be Xi. If that issue is not handled properly, Xi said, it could put, quote, the entire relationship in great jeopardy. Xi's admonition came as he and Trump held their first round of talks in Beijing, kicking off a high-stakes 2-day summit that is expected to cover trade, tariffs, and Iran, in addition to perennial friction over Taiwan. Xi stressed to Trump that, quote, the Taiwan question is, quote, the most important issue in China-U.S. relations. So he made it clear, Donald, I've summoned you here to China. You think it was your idea, but I actually manipulated you into it. I've summoned you here to China. I have ordered you to praise me, and you have. I have made it clear that you are not to touch Taiwan, or I will kick the living shit out of you, in essence, right? And on top of that, nothing else matters. All of your petty bullshit, your tariff nonsense, we've already beat you in that. We're going to play this game with you a little bit, but you've already lost that. That's not what we're here to discuss. You won't be getting any help with us when it comes to Iran. You got yourself into that mess. The Iranians will continue to beat the living crap out of your nonsensical policy. And when they're done with you, when they've effectively manipulated you well enough and they feel like they have a good enough position and they're better off, in a much better position, well better off than before the war started, they'll let you off the hook and let you leave. We're not to speak about that, okay? The only thing that matters is Taiwan. That's all we care about right now. Nothing else that you have to say matters to us. Nothing means anything to us. You do what you're told on Taiwan, okay? And everything's going to be fine. You step out of line on Taiwan, and because you're not President Biden, because you're not President Obama, you step out of line on Taiwan, and you're going to have to pay the price. You got it, Donald? And Trump basically said, that's fantastic. I completely understand. All right, we're going to be fantastic. We're going to be the best of friends. I know he loves me. He loves me. The president of China, he loves me so much. Beijing considers Taiwan a democratically self-ruled island, part of its territory. The island's ruling party rejects that claim. The U.S. has long acknowledged China's view, but maintained strong relationships with Taipei and has kept vague about how it would respond on an attack on Taiwan. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told CNBC's Squawk Box in an interview with Joe Kieran on Thursday morning that Trump understands the issues surrounding Taiwan and is very, very resolute in his answers. Straight up lie. He has said nothing. There have been no resolute answers from the village idiot about the Taiwan situation. None whatsoever. None, not one. He hasn't said anything to Xi. There has been nothing, right? And Trump doesn't understand what's happening in Taiwan any more than he understands what's happening in Iran any more than he understands, how to tie his own shoes. Quote, I'm sure we'll be hearing more from him in the coming days on that, Bessent said. Some Chinese experts in the U.S. have said that Trump's tangential speaking style, which he himself has dubbed the weave, could lead to an off-script comment on Taiwan that China could parse to its advantage. And again, lazy fucking journalism here. Trump's tangential speaking style. Stop it, CNBC. This is where you're responsible for the failure of democracy that we're all living in again. You can do credible reporting by not normalizing him by calling it a tangential speaking style. It is clearly, factually obvious that Trump is incapable of completing a sentence. It is fairly obvious that he's incapable of completing a complete thought. So let's see if we can fix that sentence to help CNBC find the courage it needs to report the truth. Some Chinese experts in the U.S. have said that Trump's inability to maintain a coherent train of thought when speaking about China, which he himself has dubbed the weave, could lead to an off-script comment on Taiwan, period. Trump has a history of misinformed, reactive, and unnecessary public statements that China, and in this public statements, and in this instance, one of those one of those about Taiwan would be something that China could parse into its advantage. They could have worded it better than that, but if they had courage and they would do their jobs as journalists, and who's the journalist that wrote this? Evelyn Cheng. If you would do your job as a journalist and you would find the courage to report effectively, you could have parsed it more better, and it would have been still true, right? What you're writing is not true. It's not true that Trump does a weave and that it's intentional. U.S. Treasury Turkey, blah, 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 blah. I already read that. Sorry, guys. She additionally expressed interest in buying more U.S. oil to reduce China's dependence on the Strait of Hormuz in the future. That won't happen. Nothing that China promises Trump happens. I can't tell you how many times and this is why I'm so certain of it, since the first administration, how many promises China makes to Trump so that he gets a talking point, and they don't happen. Like, not at all. Like, not even for 5 minutes. Not even a little bit. The Chinese are not going to buy any more oil from the United States. The official said. The two presidents also discussed increasing Chinese purchases of U.S. agricultural products per the readout. They have been promising to do that since since they sat down for the non-negotiations about the trade war. And they have bought more soybeans because they stopped buying them. So they bought more than nothing, right? Since the agreement came, they bought more than nothing, which is what they were buying before. But they also get their soybeans now. They don't need ours. They get them for prices that our farmers can't match it from Argentina and from Brazil. And I guess whatever it is that the Argentinians and the Brazilians cannot supply, then they'll throw U.S. farmers a bone and they'll buy a little bit. Quote, leaders from many of the United States' largest companies joined a portion of the meeting, the readout said. Trump brought a group of business leaders on the trip. So the idiot who runs the circus brought the clown car with him, and he dropped these jackass ass-kissing CEOs out of the clown car, and these fools were, the Chinese must have been eating this up. seeing this confederacy of morons, many of whom were from some of America's biggest companies, and seeing them grovel. Again, if Trump was summoned to China to be warned about Taiwan, these fools were as well. If you think about the fact that the CEO of the largest company there, of NVIDIA, is a Taiwanese American, right? There's something to be said for that. When he stepped foot on China, in China at this summons indirectly, you can call it manipulation, you can call it summons, you can call it whatever you want, of President Xi. And, the Chinese go and warn the idiot who brings an ass-kissing Taiwanese American. I wonder how the Taiwanese feel about this. A Taiwanese American to go and grovel, at Trump's feet and subsequently at the feet of the Chinese. I mean, the message is just staggering. It is, I am in awe of how effectively the Chinese have manipulated this situation and have manipulated the moron in the White House. At a state banquet in the idiot's honor, the leaders praised the historic visit and vowed to jointly deepen and promote U.S. and China relationship. Following a quote, an in-depth exchange of views, end quote, Xi said both leaders believed that Chinese-U.S. relations were, quote, the most important bilateral ties in the world, end quote, and that the countries should be partners rather than rivals. In comments translated by Reuters, Xi added that, quote, mutual respect, end quote, was a key to stable ties. Again, I really believe it. That's just if you translate that, it's really just, Donald, I own you now. You'll do what we tell you, and you'll do it when we tell you. Okay? Even if Russia tells you differently, you're going to do what we want you to do. It's enough with your nonsense. In his speech, the idiot described Xi as a friend. He's my good friend. We're such good friends. We really are. He's like my best friend. Xi and I, we go back a long time. We get along really well. He likes me so much. I'm very smart. He told me this the other day. I'm the smartest guy. Xi described Trump as a friend and said the relationship was one of the most consequential in world history. No, it's not. It's not even a blip. It's not even one of the most it's not even one of the most consequential for Xi this month, let alone this fucking year or whatever. You're just a moron, Donald. You're just an epic fucking moron that he manages, that he controls, that he plays with. You're a puppet for a man who can, just, run circles around you on his worst day. And it's exactly what he's doing. Anyway, it's enough. It's enough of that nonsense. Lacey, the leader of China, is not a dumb man. I don't think the leader of most nations are dumb men, or dumb people, I should say. Xi is by far not a dumb man. Putin is not a dumb man. The Ayatollah of Iran is not a dumb man, right? Benjamin Netanyahu is not a dumb man. It's hard to be. Only in America could a complete fucking moron be president of the United States twice. I don't think there's another country that I am aware of where that could have happened, right? So, of course, he's going to get manipulated by men who are, compared to Donald, these guys are intellectual giants, right? Donald has no chance. No chance. All right. Now, back in the real world. Okay. Back in the world of real things, where an idiot is not being managed and manipulated to humiliate the United States. I know you guys can't see it. It's a little bit. Let me see if I can fix it in the. Let me see if I can fix this in the. I don't know if I can fix this right now in the lot. No, I don't think I can do it. No, I don't want to do it because I don't want to screw up my stream. I know this is a little bit cut off in the window, so I apologize for that. But what this says is, this is Al Jazeera. U.S. Admiral says Iran threat to neighbors is dramatically degraded. Iran's ability to threaten the Gulf states and U.S. interests in the Middle East have been dramatically reduced, a senior U.S. naval officer says. Really? Really? Quote, Iran has a significantly degraded threat, and they no longer threaten regional partners of the United States in ways they were able to do before across every domain. Admiral Brad Cooper told a U.S. Senate committee, quote, they've been significantly degraded, end quote. Really, Admiral Bradley? What the fuck is wrong with you? What an embarrassment you are. Like General Kane, a person who had obviously a storied military career, you've defiled it with your subservience to the fucking idiot in the White House. And you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're babbling, perpetuating bullshit. Come on. Stuff we know. We know Iran is not. Yes, their 55-year-old Navy is an Air Force. You blew it up. But according to credible reporting, not the bullshit that you guys perpetuate and won't own. I mean, General Kane wouldn't answer this question. He said it was classified. He couldn't answer it. But there's been credible reporting that Iran maintains 70% of its missile capacity. Drones, missiles, everything. That Iran has rebuilt all of its underground facilities or repaired them. All of them. Right? And the thing is, we've seen it. We've seen Iran blow shit up since the fucking ceasefire started. We saw them doing it until the ceasefire happened. We saw them doing it to ships that were trying to go across the Strait of Hormuz. They haven't lost their capacity at all to hit their neighbors. They haven't lost their capacity at all to try to hit the U.S. ships in the region with drones and missiles. They haven't lost the ability to send a shit ton of drones over to Israel. They haven't lost their capacity to blow up oil fields in the United Arab Emirates. They haven't lost any of that capacity. If anything, that 70% that they maintained, they have now beefed up through land routes going through Pakistan or over the sea, through the Caspian Sea, from Russia sending them drones. What the fuck are you talking about? They've been significantly degraded. It's such bullshit. Why are you doing this? What is wrong with you? You're a military leader. You're an fucking admiral, for Christ's sakes. What is wrong with you? Stand up to an idiot. Take the L. Get fired. But don't soil yourself by telling us that what we see with our eyes and hear with our ears isn't real. The fuck? I mean, you can't. It's hard to just. It's hard to hear it. It really is. There's another story. Let me see if I can find it that I wanted to use to sort of dovetail against this. Is it the CENTCOM article? No, that's not it. Hang on. Here we go. Iran implementing this is 2 hours ago. Iran implementing new Strait of Hormuz travel protocol? But wait. Admiral, the idiot is in China basically pleading with the Chinese to figure out a way to get him the fuck out of the war. And the Chinese are telling him to go screw himself, and they're telling him, you better watch your step, Donald, or you're going to wind up in a war with us over Taiwan. That's all we're interested in talking about. There's nothing else that matters. So shut the fuck up, Donald. Smile and do what we tell you. So there's that. And then, Admiral Bradley, you're telling us that the Iranians have been significantly limited in the amount of damage they can do. They can't do shit, right? Shit, but fucking control the Strait of Hormuz completely. Still, gas is up to $4.55 a gallon here in New Jersey right now. We have some of the cheapest gas in the country. By midweek next week, if something doesn't change, we'll be up to $5. The national average, let's see what the national average is right now. Okay, let's see. National average now is $4.53 a gallon. So we've exceeded the national average here in New Jersey today. Yay. But Iran is, the Iranians are so incapacitated, according to General Bradley, that they're implementing a new Strait of the Hormuz travel protocol. Iranian officials are trying to formalize their new procedures to control shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian state media, quoting an unnamed IRGC naval officer, reported about 30 vessels have passed the strait since Wednesday evening in coordination with the IRGC Navy that's supposedly gone. That includes a number of Chinese vessels are allowed to flow through following coordination between the Iranian and Chinese officials. Chinese oil tankers coming through now. They're not going to need to buy America's fucking oil, Donald. They're lying to you because they want to. So that includes so we are seeing Iran projecting what it believes is, quote, a new question in the Strait of Hormuz, a new equation, in the Strait of Hormuz rather than a full closure. So while we're pretending, because the idiot said that we need to, while we're pretending we're in control of the Strait of Hormuz, which is laughable, all we're doing is blocking Iranian ships, but to and from Iran, the Iranians have been in control of the Strait of Hormuz for nearly 2 months now. The Strait of Hormuz for 2 months now. While we're doing that, while they're doing that, and the admiral is talking about how tough we are and how we've degraded them, Iran is negotiating bilaterally with other countries, unilaterally, I should say, with other countries, China. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point the Europeans are like, fuck it. The French are like, fuck it. Fuck it. Let me call the Iranians and negotiate a deal so we can get French boats through. And Australians are like, fuck it. All the Southeast Asian countries are like, fuck it. Fuck it. China's doing it. We could do it. South Korea is like, fuck it. Can you get me the Iranians on the phone? And we have a situation where the Iranians are completely in control of the Strait of Hormuz. Our military, with Admiral fucking ass kisser Bradley, is just sitting in the water looking like idiots. Where, the countries that are like, that have negotiated with Iran are going through the Strait of Hormuz, and there's no U.S. companies or no U.S. boats or no boats that are aligned in any way with the United States' position. And again, everyone else, eventually everyone, it becomes normal. Everyone just negotiates with the Iranians. The Iranians are in control of the strait. We're sitting there like idiots in our boats, burning fuel every day and money, doing absolutely nothing, while traffic that isn't U.S. related goes through the Strait of Hormuz. That will be the ultimate humiliation, and that sure as hell is where we're headed. So, yay for that. Last thing I want to cover in this, it's supposed to be the morning live, but we're the afternoon live, live and recorded stream. Before I get to that, if you are following, please, if you're enjoying this, this live or recorded, please like and please subscribe if you're not. If you are with us on YouTube, again, your subscriptions are fantastic. I need to get to 1,000 YouTube subscribers across the board so that I could have the opportunity to possibly monetize this work on YouTube. So I would so appreciate you subscribing over there. If you're over here on Substack, if you're not subscribed, please do. If you are subscribed, please consider upgrading to a paid subscription or just starting out with a paid subscription if you're not currently a member. It's what allows me to do this work. Anyway, back to Howard Lutnick's deposition. Do you guys remember? Let me just pull up the actual transcript of the deposition. I haven't read through this yet. I just listened to some reporting on it, and I did a quick Chat GPT review of, Claude AI review of it. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, too in depth about it. I'm just going to cover it from a high level. Howard Lutnick, the Secretary of Commerce, was interviewed behind closed doors. It should have been recorded, but it wasn't. because Jim Comer and the entire Republican controlled oversight committee, minus the Democrats who are trying to expose the truth, they're all trying to cover up the Epstein files for the village idiot Donald Trump. But they had no choice. They had to call Howard Lutnick to give a deposition. And we heard from a lot of Democrats after the deposition just how stressed out, nervous, sweaty, ridiculous Lutnick was. Because Lutnick had contradicted, he was on a podcast several months ago where he told the podcaster how, with a smile on his face, he's such a piece of shit, he's such an asshole. He was like, my wife and I, we went to Lutnick's house. We went to Epstein's house. A beautiful house. I'm going to tell you that. It was beautiful. I loved it. But then my wife and I, we see a massage table. I says to my wife, what the fuck is that? He didn't say it that way. I'm just, editorializing for my entertainment. What the fuck is that? I said to him, what the fuck do you use that thing for? What do you use that fucking thing for? He said for massages, but he said it's for the right fucking kind of massages. I said to my wife, get the fuck out of here. And I never saw him again. Right. That's kind of what Lutnick said in that interview. Only to find out Epstein files come out that prove 12 years later he shows up by invitation. He got invited to Epstein Island and went and brought the whole fucking family and his housekeeper. And there's questions about whether or not he was interested in trafficking her. Right? Or Epstein was, right? So, and then and that was 12 years, I think, after he said he had no contact with him. There was a business deal where, his name and Epstein's name are listed. I can't remember the name of this company, but they're listed in essence as investors, that they somehow didn't know each other. So that Epstein, the House Oversight Committee couldn't really bring themselves, as much as they would have liked to completely avoid that situation. So they bring Epstein, Lutnick in for this deposition. No cameras allowed, which is very unusual in these kinds of depositions, because we'd be able to watch Lutnick sweating, and Democrats hammered him. They hammered him on all the lies he told, on all the bullshit I haven't read through the full transcript, so I can't really go over it in detail. But in essence, when Lutnick was asked about, what the fuck with the Epstein Island, he was like, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Somehow Epstein, it was incredulous, I think was the word he used or something. It was just unbelievable that Epstein somehow had my number and they found me and they invited me. It was unbelievable to think of that. Really? Well, if it was fucking unbelievable, why'd you go? I don't know. It was incredulous. He just kept using the same, and I don't think that's the word that he used. And when he was challenged over and over again by Democratic representatives like Ro Khanna, his responses were the same. He was tripping over himself. When Ro Khanna at one point asked him, whenever anyone asked him if he spoke to Donald Trump about Epstein, the Department of Justice lawyers who were there stood up and said, we're not going to discuss that because of executive privilege, right? But he did, which is bullshit. But apparently, according to Ro Khanna, and now it's here in the transcript, when he was asked if he spoke to anyone in the Trump administration about this, he said that he did, which clearly is indicative of the fact that they told him what he needed to speak about and what he needed to shut the fuck up about. So again, I'm not going to go into it in any more detail right now, because I've only read, a summary of it, and I haven't read through the full transcript. So I don't want to misinform anyone. So hopefully I'll get a chance to do that later today. So I think that's it. We're at about 40 some odd minutes now, almost 49, almost 50 minutes. So I think I think we're good for today's, late morning update. 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one live at a time. Thank you so much, as always, for being here, guys. Um, and hang in there. I know it feels. I know it feels. There's a sense of frustration that's different from the normal frustrations that I think we all feel with the Trump administration. We had a big win 2.5 weeks ago with the Virginia redistricting that the Virginia Supreme Court basically threw out. We're probably going to get an answer from Supreme Court today, the emergency docket, on that on that appeal that Virginia did, and I don't think you should look forward to it. I don't think the Supreme Court is going to stand with the state of Virginia and the voters. So we have all this very, very difficult, cataclysmic voting nonsense and this racist, disgusting behavior from these southern states, these abject racist legislatures, and these just profane racist creep governors who are basically erasing black districts in their state because the Supreme Court allowed them to, and it feels heavy. It feels heavy. You got Lutnick coming and doing this and basically kind of getting away with it for now, and it feels heavy. We have the idiot going to China and the mainstream media covering it like they so often do, being the in essence, the suckers that they are, and covering it like it's fucking normal, as opposed to Midas Touch, which is actually covering it like it really is, and that feels heavy. And I want you to take the heaviness with a grain of salt, because what we're not seeing a lot of coverage of is the idiot is polling in the low 30s. Remember, what we're dealing with now is what I refer to as the autocratic coup, right? The politics are over. The politics of Donald Trump are done. There are no politics anymore. We've seen it in every election since the idiot was elected, since he was inaugurated. Massive losses for the Republicans, massive underperformance. We've seen it over and over and over again. I mean, you can't even count how many times we've seen it at this point, right? So we've seen that, and that's real. And I've often said that once he's polling consistently in the 20s, the coup, which is what we're going through now, this is the next phase. We're in the autocratic coup because the politics are done. And you can see there's this effort with Republicans, this desperate effort to take over these southern states and Republican states. It's not going to work. Even if they gerrymander the shit out of everywhere, mass percentage of these gerrymanders are going to backfire on them because they need voters still. And those voters are either not going to show up or they're disenchanted with Trump. And a lot of times they have to split their bright red districts into what are purple districts. And they're hoping against hope, praying against prayers that things stay, but they won't, right? So we're in the autocratic coup, and it feels scary, but just remember, we're heading down to the 20s. And the longer this war goes on, the closer we get to it, and the higher gas prices. Once this idiot is in the 20s consistently, it's over. It's over. You don't even have to, I don't think at that point I'm even going to worry anymore about the autocratic coup, because there'll be no political. You'll start to see GOP senators, when he's consistently polling in the 20s, find the courage that they need. Not yet. They're not there yet, but I expect they're going to wind up there. I really do. I just want to see, I think Lacey had a comment there. Let me see if I can just pull this over. And I'm getting concerned. They're gaining 8 or 9 seats. It will make the midterms harder. I think what it'll do, that's true. And remember, Democrats aren't done yet. And we don't have that Supreme Court, even though I think I know how that Supreme Court decision is going to go, we don't have that final Supreme Court decision about Virginia. Virginia could take another approach as well. We still have New Jersey. There's a lot of options. Whether or not they happen before 2026 is, the election is another story, but some of them might. But I think even if the Republicans gain 10 seats, I think the difference is a close House as opposed to a Democratic blowout. So, you see Democrats up by 3 seats instead of, 13 seats. And I'm fine with that because the House is a simple majority. And I think where this backfires is in the Senate races because they can't gerrymander them. And I keep saying this, and I keep saying I know nobody thinks this is real, but I do think you have a reasonable chance, especially with this gerrymandering now, and with black voters all around the country incensed, even in red states. I think you've got a better than average chance of definitely having Democrats win the Senate. But I think I think you have a decent chance of a lot of upsets in red states and at the Senate level, and you wind up with a potential filibuster-proof Senate majority. I know I'm in the minority, and that I appear to be naive, but I just don't think that it's impossible. I think it's even likely. And then the other part of it is, even if the Republicans, let's say they win the House, right? And Democrats win significantly in the Senate, right? It's a one-shot deal because once this ends, once Democrats take control of the Senate and they get some victories in state legislatures, which they will, in November, the Democrats now have 2 years to get their shit together with gerrymandering and pushing back. And you're going to see New York, New Jersey, Illinois. Maybe we'll see some previously moderate states like Minnesota. We're going to see possibly Maryland will finally get its shit together. You're going to see Virginia will figure out how to do this. You're going to see if the Republicans want to fucking play this game, they don't have the population to win. And if they're going to listen to Donald Trump and we're going to literally split the country up by red states and blue states, gerrymandered states, the red states don't have a snowball's chance in hell of maintaining control of the House. If the blue states decide they're going to do the same fucking thing across the board. So, just take that with a grit. So take that in and consider that. That looks like a spam call, but that's a good indication for me that I should wrap this live. I love you guys. Once again, 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one live at a time. I will see you guys a little bit later today. If I don't get a live in, it'll certainly be recorded. And again, please like and subscribe. Be well, everybody, and I'll see you soon.